Welcome to today's special episode of COVID Chronicles. Today's special episode is a battle between good and evil called COVID Chronicles The Devil. What happens when you face a hulking, violent, lying man-child who is emotional, vindictive, and a master of deception know-it-all, ignoramus who probably gave you COVID? You're battling the devil. In battles of good versus evil, good usually comes out on top. But both opponents will leave scarred. COVID Destroyer will scar the devil will scar COVID Destroyer. But in this battle of good versus evil, we will take you into when CD first met the devil and how the devil orchestrated a carefully constructed plan to try to destroy COVID Destroyer, the hero Earth needs. So let's take you back, way back to April 28th, 2012. In the worst year of COVID Destroyer's life, January was the worst month of his life. January 24th, which is soon upon us, was the worst day of his life. It was the day COVID Destroyer lost his mom in the physical. Now, if you are a parent who has a child and you lose them, that's probably the worst pain you can feel. But I have no children. Following that, the worst pain you can have is maybe losing a spouse. I don't have one. Moving forward, the worst pain you can have is losing a father. Mine was not around. My grandfather died before I was born. So in my corner, I had my mother and my grandmother. Grandmothers can compete for the number one spot because they often take up for their grandchildren over their own children. But my grandmother favored my sister, so that gave my mom the upper hand. So that's what made 2012 such a bad year for me. So on August 28th, 2012, I ventured to a place I spent time with my mother in Atlantic City to watch a Bernard Hopkins fight. If my mom was living at the time, I would have been at her house watching the fight. Be clear, my mother was a bigger boxing fan than I was, even when she passed away. So we go to Atlantic City for this fight, and I meet a guy who is a big Nas fan. So he's saying Nas is better than Jay-Z. I jumped in. It was a healthy debate, and I moved on, but I had possibly met a new friend. Moving forward, I continued with the worst year of my life. But in 2013, things picked up. and I moved forward. 2014, 2015. The devil and Code Destroyer would cross paths in either the last week of April or, yes, the first week of May, the first Saturday in May. I believe it was May 2nd, could have been May 3rd, in the city of Las Vegas. They were both there for the Floyd Money Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao fight, which went on to be the highest grossing fight in history. They had different situations. COVID Destroyer had a credential for the fight. The Devil didn't, but they still crossed paths. Moving on from there, the two would once again meet in Vegas. This time in November 2015. The battle between Miguel Cotto and Saul Canelo. This was a battle between a Puerto Rican great, and the devil is Puerto Rican, and a Mexican great. Moving into 2016, the two would once again cross paths. This time, it was for the Sergey Kovalev-Andre Ward fight. It was a back and forth fight, but Andre Ward was victorious. Now we move into 2017. The two didn't cross paths in Vegas because COVID Destroyer went to Vegas for the Floyd Money Mayweather fight versus Conor McGregor. The Devil went to Vegas for the Canelo Alvarez versus Triple G Gennady Golovkin fight. Moving on, 2018, neither of our heroes went to Las Vegas. Going into 2019, neither of our heroes went to, well, that's not true. COVID Destroyer spent the entire month of July in Las Vegas and then returned in August. 2019, COVID Destroyer had some injuries he had to recover from. Going into 2020, he navigated those injuries. But he also navigated his way back to Las Vegas for the second fight between heavyweights Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. Fury was victorious, and the year continued. Now, March 2020 gave the United States of America and the entire world a huge blow. The the COVID-19 pandemic struck the world. Events shut down across the country and across the world. Moving on, our hero COVID destroyer had another ailment a little more serious in August of 2020. Here's where the devil invited COVID destroyer to stay at his place and heal. At the time, it seemed like a nice gesture. We go through August, September, October. Then November. November was a weird month because COVID destroyer felt his best in October, but felt his weakest in November. Ironically, COVID destroyer and the devil clashed in October, but the devil's girlfriend was able to get the two to be friends again. We move to December, and COVID Destroyer is a hero who needs water. Of course, we all need water, and COVID Destroyer deemed it strange when the devil comes into the apartment with 20-gallon bottles of water, and he doesn't offer our hero, Mr. Johnson, any. Soon, our hero, Mr. Johnson, will be in the hospital. He entered on December 27th, and he was released on December 9th. As Mr. Johnson, aka the COVID Destroyer, battled COVID-19, he was bombarded by foolish questions by the devil. How do you think you got it? How long have you been positive? Those are questions he could not answer, and no one can answer. You can only speculate. So a COVID destroyer has to spend the last few days of 2020 in the hospital and bring in the first couple of days of 2021 in the hospital. Meanwhile, COVID destroyer discovered that the worst thing for COVID to do is attack your mind. COVID did a great job of attacking his mind. But was it COVID or was it or was it the devil? As we take a look back, it could have been orchestrated by the devil, but it could have also not been. So back in January of this month, COVID Destroyer is hanging in Harlem. Suddenly, Mr. Johnson is called back to the hospital because he left some belongings. Mr. Johnson, aka COVID Destroyer, wanted to take care of that. On Wednesday, January 13th, he was unable to obtain a car. On Thursday, COVID Destroyer clearly said he wanted to go to a purple hospital like NYU. As one of COVID Destroyer's friends tried to get him in a cab to NYU, the devil sabotaged that by not going down enough. There was a cab that actually waited 30 minutes. So our hero's friend had no idea what was happening. So she said, I'm sending Dorella an ambulance from the closest hospital, which is Montefiore. Our hero, COVID Destroyer, cannot stand the hospital known as Montefiore. In the past, he has sat in a lobby with people with ailments with only a curtain between them. Our hero was smart enough to know that Montefiore would be a peachy dish of COVID and other infectious diseases. So he decided not to go. But once again, the devil was sabotaging his plan. So when the ambulance came, he buzzed the FDNY people in. Our hero COVID Destroyer still did not want to go. But as they walked in, and the devil and his girlfriend did not told them I was there, it backed me into a corner. One guy talked to me while the other talked to the devil, and the devil was saying some pretty awkward things to set COVID Destroyer up. They send COVID Destroyer off to Montefiore, not at NYU Langone, because Jason stayed away from a laptop. So now we move forward to the experience Mr. Johnson, aka COVID Destroyer, had at this hospital he did not want to be at. Besides there being a COVID killer in there, so was the devil, and the devil was orchestrating his plan in continuation. Our hero, COVID Destroyer, fought enough to the point where no quarantining was necessary, and they would send me back home. But COVID Destroyer needed a mental break from his friend. His mental break was at his cousin's house in Harlem, Franklin. As COVID Destroyer finally made back to NYU Langone, there were there was strange behavior on the part of staff. The previous time COVID Destroyer had been there, people barely came to his room. This time, he was under 24-hour watch. He pondered, what could I have done to deserve this? Moving on to Saturday, we recorded an episode of COVID Chronicles. Then What happened next will blow your mind. Between Friday and Saturday, our hero realized someone wasn't telling him the truth, and he confronted everyone that he could about it. Yes, Mrs. Johnson had a blood clot, which seemed to have gotten more serious, but he decided to keep it going. And they did. The devil made COVID destroyer park multiple times. These two had a major, major argument over the phone on Friday, and in the early mornings of Friday morning, the devil decided it was time to strike and did so verbally to our hero. The hero, always forgiving, waited 8 hours to let the devil calm down. This is when he was sent a special text message. Bear with me. That lighting is much better, so we will sacrifice the view for better lighting. So we believe all of this was inspired by COVID destroyers' need for space. But again, it could have gone back further and further. The devil says, "Yo, we are done. The friendship is over. You are not welcome here anymore. Do not waste your time coming. Yolande, his girl, his girlfriend, isn't going to save you this time." Taking a break from his text messages, which were 9 straight, his girlfriend actually stood in the way when he began to charge at our hero. That's when we should have known there was a problem, but we didn't. This is your break from me. Yolande will give your stuff. Bro, I never want to see you nor talk to you again. You stabbed me in the back and I, all caps, hate you for that. For it. And then he blocked our hero, who could not respond. So our hero started to think, well, at the hospital, what possibly could have happened? He learned that cleverly the devil had made it seem that Destroyer was having effects on people. Oh, he's visualizing things. He's not the same. So, when he and son, the place that they stay at, had to be put on a medical record. Now, a couple of days later, the devil has interviews to do. When last our heroes saw each other, there was no love lost. But the COVID destroyer realizes he's dealing with a dangerous enemy, an enemy that he did not want to pick a fight with. But when you call a man out, does he just succumb and back down, or does he confront the challenge?
Okay, yeah, he'll be recording all day, so just tell him to stop to do them. Yeah, thanks.
COVID destroyer COVID destroyer not one to back down from a challenge, especially for the devil, began to think and strengthen his mental health. He discovered some things that led him to think this may have been planned for quite some time. For any infants, toddlers, kids, hope you like the COVID destroyer's costume. And now, unfortunately, we seem to be having some difficulty. Part of the problem is some information that COVID Destroyer dug up is on the laptop that he is filming on. So on that note, we are going to bid you adieu for now. But the COVID Destroyer will return with this tale. Will he be confronted by the devil on the Lord's day? Or will the devil continue to lay low as the master of deception that he is, who is planning his next attack? Find out in the next episode of the COVID Chronicles. The devil. Only on YouTube.com. Thanks for joining us, boys and girls, men and women, and we will see you again later this morning. Look for this to be up somewhere around 10:15. Thank you and goodbye.